So, welcome. It's Thursday, 8 p.m. on the East Coast. I'm Bobby. This is the In the Studio Live, my weekly live streaming show. As you may or may not know, I'm starting to transition away from more of the in the studio mixing stuff and getting more towards interviewing really interesting people. And tonight is no exception to that. I have my good friend Rob Morgan with us tonight. So we're going to pick his brain about mixing philosophies, life, the crazy stuff that he's doing right now with the mixing community. Really excited to share that all with you. He started his own mixing club, which we'll talk about, called Audio Mix Club. And they're doing a lot of really awesome stuff. So if you like mixing or mastering music, it's something that you're going to want to check out for sure. And we'll have links to everything in the show notes after the show. So with that, I always start the show, I should say, with a beer that I'm drinking. So I always tend to support my local breweries. And tonight we have a beer from, yet again, DC Brau. And this one is called On the Wings of Armageddon. It is a delicious Imperial IPA. So I'm definitely going to be diving into this one. Rob didn't have time to grab a beer, but he's got some hot chocolate. So that should work, I think. And so with that, let's bring Rob in. Rob, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, Bobby?
Good. So Rob's out in, I guess you're all the way on the West Coast. So this is like the full, as far away as we could probably live from each other.
I'm here in Northern California, the real Northern California, I call it.
In the middle of the woods, right?
At the what?
Are you in the middle of the woods? Like where in Northern California?
If you look at the topological map and you see like the valley, we're at the top of the valley, right in mountains around us on three sides. And if you go any farther, you're in the mountains.
That sounds like the dream, man.
It's just beautiful forests all the way around, lakes, and then it all burned down.
Oh no, that's right. But you guys avoided like the disaster. I mean, that could have been awful, right? Like the smoke and everything that was happening. Like,
yeah, we had that car fire where they had the fire tornado, and they had scientists from all over the world come and study it because it's not something they normally see. And it just moved really fast and burned a bunch of stuff down, and it was really bad. And then the very next year, right next door at Paradise, we had that fire in Paradise, is the name of the town, and it killed like 90 people and
oh my god,
the entire town. So like Northern California, there's a couple spots that haven't burnt yet, but we're saving that for next year.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's so crazy, man. Well, I'm so glad that it didn't like make its way and like, because there's a lot of people it's really like affected. There was the one, I can't think of his name, but he wrote The Social Dilemma, the documentary on why social media is awful, but I think it's pretty awesome because I'm doing this live stream with Rob right now. But his house burned down. He was out of Northern California. Same. So, I mean, it's crazy.
Thousands, tens of thousands of houses are burned. Tens of thousands of people with nowhere to live. The recovery has been incredible to see the people come together.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. No more depressing stuff. So you're in the mountains, and I think I think I've seen videos of you and your wife mountain biking. Is this true?
Yes, mountain biking is one of my favorite sports, and I love mountain biking, and it's a big deal to me. And I just got a brand new mountain bike. It's pretty fancy. And
do you got pegs on the back?
No. These are full blown like trail bikes.
Yeah, and I watched the videos. It seems pretty intense, man.
It's good times for sure. I mean, it's good exercise, which I really need. And we go out into the forest and go through all the trees and taking all that in. It's just an incredible. This is my favorite thing to do is go mountain bike riding. There's nothing better to be out in the forest, just kind of cruising through the woods, your own manpower. We don't have the battery operated ones. We have to fully manually operate ours with our legs.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen those. They're really popular. And then they have um, there's like these like hoverboards almost now, right? So it's like
Oh
you have
yeah,
these things with one wheel and they
the
just
one
go
wheel.
tearing around on trails. Like that's amazing.
Yeah, we have what's called the Sundial Bridge here in Redding, California, and a whole river trail system. And when COVID hit, nobody was at work. Everybody was out on the trails. And it was amazing how many people bought bicycles and those one wheels and scooters, and they're just out doing everything. The outdoors activities have really gone crazy in this last year.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess that's the one nice thing about COVID, right? Is it's like you're either stuck inside or you can get outdoors a little bit, and do your best. Like, yeah, just stay the hell away from people.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
I
mean, I
like
have a
that.
lot of friends that do the studio stuff like this, and they're like, my life hasn't changed at all. I just stay
Yeah,
in my basement and just mix music all day, just like I did before.
yeah, yeah. If you have a home studio, that works out great.
Yeah. So where's your studio located?
My studio is in my house. And so when our son moved out some years ago, 15 years ago or something, I've always had a garage or a room to my own. And when my son moved out, I got 2 rooms. So I have this incredible mix room, which took me years and years and years to get to the point where I could have something like this. And then I have a tracking room down the hall with a big bathroom in between. So we have perfect isolation. And
Nice.
we got the analog cameras, so the real time with screens, so we can see each other, right?
Oh, that's
So,
awesome.
so we can do with the talkback systems, the real time visual, and all that, and it works out really good.
So this is in your home, right? This is your home studio.
Yeah,
So
my wife
what
like let me take this side of the house over.
so what was the process designing it? Because I have a bedroom and I followed basic plans from an acoustician that I trust, just to like hit the biggest pain points. So it's pretty straightforward, but it sounds like something like for you, did you actually design it from the ground up? Like did you frame it and build it up like this is all Rob's like grand vision?
So I've been into mixing since 1990 is when I bought my first Yamaha 4-track cassette recorder
Hell yeah.
and built my very first studio then in a shop. And it was a big shop and acoustics were fine. The bass could go right out the doors. There was no problems. But when I moved in my first bedroom, um, I I built an incredible desk and I had all this equipment and I had a good job so I could buy stuff. And I turned it on and I couldn't hear the bass. And I was like, where's the bass? So I bought a big subwoofer, a 1,000-watt subwoofer, and I put it in.
I bet your neighbors loved you.
Check this out. And I turned it on, and in my mix position, I'm expecting to hit, and I turn it on, and there's nothing. So I just keep turning it up and turning it up, just boom, boom, boom. And my wife comes running in, Rob, stop. I go, what's going on? She goes, the glasses are breaking and things are falling off the shelf. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I turned it down, to a listenable level. And I got up when I went to walk out the door, I hit a certain spot and boom, all this space. I'm like, whoa, it must have turned on. I turned around, walked back to my chair. It was gone. And I stood up and went back. And it was incredible, Bobby. It was incredible how much low end I would get not in my seating position.
Can you flip the phase? Like would that
Yeah.
would that just then make your like listening position just completely
So
catastrophic?
that was my very first experience with room acoustics and
Yeah.
serious problems, right? So then that was here comes the start of the rabbit hole, right? So I needed to start learning. So I bought books and I learned acoustics and all that. It turns out I started my own company. If you don't know, I have a company called what's it called? Morgan Telecom, right?
What's my company called again?
Well, I own a couple of companies. That's fun. So and we do business communications, right? And one of the things we've done since I've done audio this whole time is we do installed audio, anything from conference room audio to boardrooms to installed sound for venues and stuff, right? So we do those things. And so it was natural for me. And by the way, we're an Oralex dealer and I have access to all the Orlex. And so I design and help do acoustic stuff for boardrooms, whatever, and studios. But it started all the way back. This is now, but back then. So I basically went down the rabbit hole, built my first studio, realized there was problems, built the second studio with problems, third studio, fourth studio, and kept going.
God.
So I'm on version like 80, right? Every house, I bought my very first home when I was 23, and I turned the garage into a recording studio. And since I was into electronics and did I built in all the headset jacks, the mic inputs, volume controls, all on the walls, all the way around.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was really cool. And I worked on the acoustics. I did all the walls and everything like it should be, but it still wasn't perfect, but it was a big enough area where it wasn't bad. So I basically learned what it takes. So what you don't know is behind me right back here is a quarter wave bass trap. 25% of the 25% of this room is a bass trap from the ceiling to the floor and from wall basically to wall. It's about 44 inches deep with different layers of insulation to capture that. And by the way, it wasn't until I got old enough and, had the resources to build a room like this. This is a very good room, but it didn't start this way. Over the years, at some point, I'm like, if I'm going to get this, I just have to get the room good. And without taking the back wall out to let the bass waves escape, the other way to do it would be to open the ceiling and give a way for the bass waves to get out and not come back in the room. But I couldn't do it. So I just decided, you know what, when I build this room, I'm going to do whatever it takes so what I hear is right. And I just had to take 25% of the room and build a quarter wave bass trap. And it's the biggest bass trap known to man probably, but it worked.
Yeah, Ryan Fletter was just asking that. He's like, what is behind you? Is that sheet metal or what?
No.
Yeah.
This is a sound splash, right? So basically what happens is I have this bass trap behind me. It's a transparent material with layers. The first layer is 705. It's 2 inches. And then it's a R38 with the paper side towards me. And then it's 703, 4 inches. And then there's another air gap, and it's 705, and then another air gap, and then 705.
Oh my God. How wide? So what is that? It's like, what is it, like 24 inches deep? Like, or 36?
44 inches deep.
44 inches deep?
Yes.
I think that's like the size of my room right here.
No, it's big. This room is 14 and a half feet long, and 25% of it is this bass trap. So
that's amazing.
So then what happened was I have these tuned 705 panels, 6x8 on each side, and I have 4x8 on the side walls. Plus I have all the way around here. Here, do I dare?
Uh-oh. We're getting a tour.
So I have all the way around the room and in the front corners is the megalinoids. And up here is a 6x8 cloud that's air gapped. Here, look the other way. Which way is this facing? So on the side, I have these panels. But anyways, so what happened is I pretty much killed the room. I overkilled it.
Yeah.
And my philosophy was I need to get rid of these standing waves. I need to only hear these speakers. But turns out that will really play tricks on your ears and cause you some problems. So I had to put these splash panels in, and I wanted to have really fancy ones. I paid to have some made, and I just ended up with these. So this is wood.
Did you make those, or are those
No,
bought?
These are wood. I bought them, and what they do is they reflect some of the sound back. The bass and everything can go through them, and they're not covering the whole wall. I mean, down to the floor, right, and up to there, and then so I needed some sound to come back. So the same with the sidewalls. I just needed that right there.
Yeah.
So that it would, and then the rest of it is I don't know which way I'm pointing this. It is not covered. And it just makes me feel like I'm not in outer space, right? It helps my ears understand what I'm hearing. Helps me not fatigue as much by having that. So that's just a splash panel that I put over it, and it's just hanging. I take those off sometimes if I have important people come over and I don't want it to look weird. I could take those down. It looks a little nicer without them. But when I
So
mix, I put them up.
yeah, I was gonna ask. So with those diffusers, so does that like were you finding that your mixes were coming out like too bright, or was the imaging weird? Like what was the effect not having those? How did that translate to your mixes?
It really messed with my ears mostly because it would get so quiet in here that I could hear my ears have had years of abuse from playing in rock bands and blasting out music since I was a kid. When I was a teenager, that's when the car stereo started coming out with the bumping speakers. We started
I was
having
gonna say
subwoofers and
you
stuff.
had 212s in the trunk, didn't you? Huh?
No, I did. And I was always pumping it, right? So my ears are old and tired and used up, and they would just start ringing. I could hear it too much, and it just helps in so many ways. So there they are. That's why those are there. They weren't originally there. Just like
Yeah.
when I designed this room, I thought I was going to be in the front of the room, and I was going to have all the room behind me. And the way all these lights are installed, they're all in front of me now, but they're all supposed to be behind me. But then when I started trying to tune my speakers, and I used smart and all that, and I spent like a couple weeks, hours and hours a day, because I'm a real freak about it, trying to find out the best position for my speakers and to my listening thing. And I started trying out of the box because I wanted to get the flattest response before tweaks, right? Before any EQ.
Yeah, that's the right way to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So it turned out that, you move your speakers side to side and front and back, and you move your seating position. Well, you also need to try moving your speakers up and down. It turned out that, and these are my far field monitors or my midfield monitors.
The ones all
back
the way in the
there.
corner, right?
Yeah.
Here, let me. I'll zoom. I'll give everybody.
I don't hear you anymore.
That's because I muted myself because I'm a dummy.
So it turns out that if I got those speakers basically about 6.5 feet up to the driver, and where they are and where I am here, I had the best response. And so I was at the dilemma. If I do this, it really ruins the room. I can't have my couch behind me. I got all the room in front of me now. What do I do with that? And I just decided it's more important that I can hear everything as good as I can than it is that I have the traditional looking mix room. So that's how my mix room looks all jacked up. That's why I'm sitting about the 38% of the back side of the room instead of the front side of the room. And it's just what worked out.
Well, that's a good lesson for everybody, right? I mean, sometimes there's all these rules of thumb that you can find on the internet, and a lot of times, yeah, maybe it might work in a perfect scenario, but when a lot of us are mixing out of bedrooms, or we have weird closets, or like they're not designed right, sometimes you just have to do the work and move things around and experiment a little bit.
Absolutely. And move your speakers up and down too. There's a certain height where you're just gonna you get the reflections off the floor and the ceiling, right? So you move them up and down 2 inches and it could be a big difference. You just got to try.
That's a really, really interesting point. Yeah.
And then what ended up happening is I won these Genelacs in a mixing contest.
Mixing contest or something?
Yes. I won a bunch of nice stuff. It was, I don't mix metal. I never, I grew up before metal, and we had metal with Ronnie James Dio and Judas Priest, right? So, but they had it was the, what was it? OER Dread Machine contest. That's the one the Ontario Music Institute place. They got all the best YouTubers, and they videotaped the whole thing. They all came to their campus, and they wrote a song and filmed it and mixed it and put it in, and then they decided to do a mixing contest with those tracks. And let me do something right here. My wife's getting home, so I'm going to shut that door. So I did that contest, and I won all kinds of great stuff, including these speakers. So now these are my near field monitors, even though they're not that near. They're still 3.5, 4 feet away from me. and I have them tuned for where they are, and with the subwoofer too. And by the way, you have to time your subwoofer with your speakers. People miss that. It's one thing to use your sonar works and try to flatten your curve, but if you need to, if you can, if you have the interface to do it, and if you don't, you should look into it in your next one. You want to change the delay time of your speakers so all the sound hits your ears at the same time, including your low end. It tightens up unbelievable. If you listen to
Wow.
my
Yeah.
system without it and I turn it off, it just like smears. So
That I never played with the timing. But I will say though, I will say that all my speakers are like, I don't have a whole lot of room to work with. So my sub is underneath my desk and it's pretty much dead in line with my speakers. But I think you're right. If you're sitting there and close your eyes and listen and you have a way to delay the sub, I bet it's gonna be
I'm going to tell you
way
the poor
better.
man's way to do the timing.
Yes.
Put on a click track. Put a microphone up right in your listening position between your speakers. And
I know what you're gonna say.
play it back and record it, and you'll see where it lands. It's going to be late compared to the original click track, and then switch it to the other speaker and see where it is, and you can get that microphone set perfectly centered. The little trial and error, record it or move it until everything's lining up perfectly. All right, now, and that's just through one speaker at a time, and then do that click track through your sub, and it'll put out a pulse and see where that lines up compared to that, and change the timing or move it, whatever you can do, until it all lines up. And then you'll see that it does make a noticeable difference.
I bet, man. Yeah. Oh my God. I'm just imagining like if I were to do this, how crazy yeah. All right. Well, I know what I'm doing this weekend.
All you need is the microphone and the click track, one speaker at a time. Record it and see how it lines up.
Oh, that's brilliant. I can't believe I've never heard anybody saying this. Is this like a live sound thing? Like, where did this come from?
So here's my story.
It came from Morgan Telecom.
I grew up in this small town called Redding, California, right? There's no major studios. There's no what I would call even a pro studio. There's these small studios like in the there's not even a pro audio store here, but like a music store, right? And they put a studio in the back and called it a studio, which is how I got in this in the first place, playing in the band we went to in the local studios to record in 1989 or 90. And they wanted $500, which would be like $1,000 now, for a 4-song demo. And I told the guys, for $500, I've always been an audiophile guy and always stereos and always in electronics. My dad was an electronics dude in the military, and he had a electronics lab with oscilloscopes. And so I was always, and I went to college for electronics and computers. So electronics, build my own circuits, build everything. I have a whole library of cookbooks for building. So anyways, I just wanted to try to do it myself. And that's how I got in the recording. I bought a 4-track recorder instead of paying somebody else. And then I went to an 8-track and then a 16-track, 24-track. Right. By the time I was 23, I had 24-track Tascam. And my garage is all built out. And I was the first one in our town to have a CD recorder. I bought a Marantz Professional, can't tell you the model, CD burner, and it would burn it real time. So you'd play back and do your mix as it would. I'd master to DAT, and then we'd transfer from DAT to that. And then the other studios in town would pay me to make CDs for them.
That's cool.
The CD player was like $3,800, which was a lot back then. And a controller it was like $800 or something. And within a few years, it was only like $500, and you can get one in your computer. And a few years after that, they basically give them away.
Oh my God. That's wild. I also started out 4-track cassette. Same.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I had a Fostex 4-track, and then we upgraded to like a passive mixer, and then we would just run everything into it, and then run like the main out into like a 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch adapter, and put it right in that Sound Blaster Live card in my computer, and then record in the Cakewalk back in the day. So that's how we did it.
When I started, I don't even think Pro Tools was a thing yet. So what happened is I didn't have anybody to learn from, and I had to figure out everything on my own. My whole life story has been figure it out. And I've always been a guy that's just like, I tweak on things and work on it. I really get involved in trying it 18 different ways to Sunday and putting a lot of study in, right? I would like to study things. I read books, whatever I can do. So when it comes to the studio stuff, the thing that I've done different than like a somebody that's learned under a pro in a pro studio is as I kind of see it from the side of the home studio guy that's coming pros to learn from. They can't go sit in a studio and see, and you can watch a video and see what they do, but that is not the same as being there, hearing what they're hearing as they're hearing it and being able to ask those questions. And
Yeah.
so I have that perspective of the home studio guy my whole life. So when it comes to the tuning the stuff or figuring out the speakers, all that, it's because I spent so much time and it's so important to me to get it right that I just did what I had to do. Like building these rooms, I built so many of these rooms for me and my friends and everything, and I just did it over and over and over until I started figuring it out.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I want to talk about Audio Mix Club because that is like such an amazing thing, and I was way late to the game. I mean, well, I guess it's been what, a year now?
AudioMixClub.com. Audio Mix Club is 1 year old today by chance. You just happen to have me on here.
Happy
You didn't know that.
anniversary! Woo!
We're 1 year old. It was a year ago today that I started inviting people to sign up. And today, in the next few days, is when everybody started coming in and signing up. And it's been amazing. Our community is amazing. And so what happened is, because I have this perspective of learning from nothing and having to figure it out on my own from the home studio side. So it's easier, I think, for me to explain and help people than, say, a pro guy that might know way more than me, but he's looking at it from a different view and a different perspective. So if you ask them a question or try to learn from them, they don't necessarily understand where you are or how hard it is in a home studio and the things you got to figure out. I mean, they're not figuring out how to time their speakers and do all that. Probably somebody did that for them, right? So Audio Mix Club, I've been on a lot of different sites that teach audio and do mixing and all that. And there's a lot of good ones out there. And I saw what I liked and saw what I wish we had that I didn't have anywhere. So when we started Audio Mix Club, I just did those things. I wanted to have a club where we hung out, we mixed together, we mixed the same songs, gave each other feedback. We did mix challenges and club events where we got involved, and it was like a community, not just, hey, let me show you how to do something.
Right.
So that's how we got Audio Mix Club going.
Yeah. And so if for those of you that don't know, go to audiomixclub.com. It's amazing. So a lot of the mixing, like teach you how to mix monthly mixing contest websites that I've seen, it's always only the winner gets something, right? It's and a lot of times if you're new to mixing, you have no chance, and it's kind of discouraging to join something like that when you know it's going to take such a long time before you're recognized or even have a chance of winning. And a lot of times people just give up before that because it feels impossible. But you guys do it differently.
Yep. So what we did is, I know exactly what you're saying because I've been there. I had to start from that. Yeah. I'm still learning, and we're all still learning. But I when we do our mixing contest, I don't think it's fair that somebody's been mixing for 30 years and the guy that just started has to go against that. I mean, it's fun. You definitely want to do the mixing contest because you learn a lot every time you do it. And we could have a whole conversation on mixing contests. But I divided up to beginners and more advanced mixers. And matter of fact, next time we're going to do 3 tiers, because I don't want the beginners to have to go against these guys that have been mixing their whole life. So
it's like me going against Mike Tyson. It's like
yeah. So I never got that. And not only that, if you go into one of our mixing contests, your name goes in a drawing to win. You have a chance to win, even if nobody votes for your mix, because
I love that. But that's what makes it so special. It's like just for hanging out, like everybody's gonna win at some point. It's just a drawing in a hat. You never know what you're gonna win.
Something that's different about Audio Mix Club is because we're doing this because this is what we love, and we have a passion for audio, right? It's not about like trying to make money or any of those things. So a lot of the mixing contests, they're really like what do you call it? Marketing schemes or whatever, right? They get your emails. It's really about them just getting the word out, and they pull a name out of the hat and you won, or however they do it. Some of them are pretty legit. But for what we're doing is it's more about, the people, the experience, loving doing it, learning from it, right? So that's why we want to have different tiers, and we want to give prizes that anybody can win at any time. Every month we give out a handful of prizes just for participating. If you even just mix the song, you have a chance to win. It doesn't even have to be. You can just push one fader up and you're in. If you
Yeah.
participate, we have club member duels or mixing duels where it's a friendly mix off where a couple people decide to do a mix off, and it's a great learning experience. And they post their mixes in this place where we have our mix offs, and there's a poll, and people get to listen and vote and give feedback. So you get a lot of great feedback that you wouldn't get. The experience of being in a mixing contest is you against somebody else. And even as a participant of just listening, commenting, and voting is a huge learning experience. You learn what you like, you learn what you don't like, you hear some things that maybe they've done. There could be a brand new mixer on his first mix do something that's totally wrong, but you hear it and you go, wow, nobody's ever thought to do that before, and you can learn from it. So you can learn
Yeah.
from somebody. So, because if you know what you're doing, you probably wouldn't have done it, and you would have missed out on that opportunity, right?
Right. And that's like that for me, that was when I made like my biggest gains as a mixer was you put all this effort in and you think you have your vision, and you get tunnel vision when you're mixing. And then when you're in a mixing contest scenario and then you start hearing these other mixes, it really opens up the perspective like, oh man, like that other mix, like I really like what they did and their approach to it was so different from mine, and
Yep.
like it, and then or you might recognize, oh, every mix I do has this problem.
Yep.
And then so then you start learning your room better. But if you're not doing that, like if you're just mixing music for bands and getting out the door, they're not going to give you the same kind of feedback that other mixing engineers have, and they're listening in their studios and they have experience doing all this stuff. And it's just such an amazing learning opportunity. And you couple that with free prizes, like I don't know, man, you can't really beat that.
Yeah, so you just nailed it. So Audio Mix Club is really about the community and the mixers, and we mix at least one song together every month besides our mixing challenges, which we can talk about that in a minute, and the other things that we're doing. But we all mix the same song. We get a fresh set of tracks that nobody's ever heard before, that are almost always really good songs, and we all mix them together. And when we first mix it, your mix is here, right, at the beginning of the month. And you hear what other people do, and you're like, oh, I missed that track. It's bare. I didn't even know it was there. And you go back and you fix it, and your mix gets a little better. And the next guy hears what you did. Oh, I like how he did that. And it gets better. And you get feedback. And they say, yeah, I like what, you got a little too much low end on that kick. You're like, oh, I missed that. My room, I can't hear it. And your mix gets better. And by the end of the month, everybody's mixes are so much better than if you just mixed it by yourself with your girlfriend or wife saying, oh, yeah, I like it. And a few friends that don't want to hurt your feelings.
My mom liked my mix.
Yeah, she
Why
didn't
don't
notice
you
the
guys?
snare sounded like a tin can.
Yeah. Well, Joel, so one of our mutual friends, Joel Wanasek, he like said something to me when I first started mixing. He said that my snare drum sounds like a wooden spoon hitting mashed potatoes, and that like gave me like horrible like mixing anxiety for like I still suffer from it. Now all my snares sound like a cannon going off, and I can't help it because I'm so paranoid.
There you go.
But like when I like these mixing contests and the monthly mixes that we do at Audio Mix Club, like those, it kind of helps you bring you back into reality a little bit. It's like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't just have every snare drum sound like a cannon. Like it's kind of distracting a little bit.
Yeah, you do the pop ballad, just boom.
Yeah, seriously, man. It's like a giant 1700 cannon blowing off every single snare hit. Like I do not mess around.
Well, if you do like me, I've been mixing with 31 years or something now. I go through these phases where I'll start doing something, and I don't recognize at first that it's a problem, or maybe not as good as I think it is at the time, and then I'll realize it's a problem, and then I'll back it back down, and sometimes I go too far the other way, and then I don't realize that's a problem for a while, and then over the years you kind of, you figure these things out. So if it was easy, everybody would do it. I think mixing is something that should be fun, even if you're great at it or just learning or getting okay. Um, I saw I saw a comment up here. It's pretty funny. But anyways,
Oh, we should probably go over some comments. There's been a lot
yeah,
from
yeah,
the
yeah.
different people. Yeah, so we got a lot of people popping in saying hi. Diego, we miss you, man. Hope you're doing well in Canada.
Diego, my
Kyle's like my number one
brother.
fan, aside from Anthony, who's also here. Kyle, what's up? Anthony has a question. He wants to know, where do the tracks come from in Audio Mix Club?
All over the place. They come from bands I've recorded in the past. They come from artists from all over the world that know about what we're doing. So another thing we do at Audio Mix Club from time to time is what's called a mix audition. And that's where an artist needs to get their song mixed, right? And what they do is they hire a mixer. But you can send your tracks to us as long as I hear them and I like it and I think that it's going to be beneficial to the club and they're not crap, right? And it fits what we're doing. And then a mix audition, the artist is going to pay to have it mixed unless they hate all the mixes. And it's a special deal that we do. And then everybody in the club gets to mix the song and get feedback from the artist. And they can get the mix better and better. And at the end of the time period, the artist picks the mix that they like the best. And then they pay for that mix. And then that mix is usually going to go, it's going to be released on an EP or an album or however, because they're usually not just doing it for no reason, right? So instead of that mixer getting one mix or whatever from their buddy or somebody they know that they pay, they can get 100 mixes or whatever, right? And then listen to all of them and see what they like and don't like. Because even if they hear a mix they don't like, they might hear some things that they really like, and they can ask the mixer that they choose, hey, could you incorporate some of that in there? Or maybe they hear a mix. So we get mixes that way. We get mixes from all over the place.
Yeah, so you get leads. So let's take note, all you home studio mixers. You guys can get leads by joining Audio Mix Club, and that's cool because then you get your award is getting like to mix a full album.
Matter of fact, we might be doing a mix audition next month. I'm working it out right now, so stay tuned. And Audio Mix Club is a private place. So when you go to our website, audiomixclub.com, you can't see anything. You don't even know what we're doing. I mean, I write a little thing on there. but you don't really see what's going on. You can't see nothing. Everything we do, and you get into the club, and that's where everything's happening. All right. And we're not even really on Facebook or anything. I have a Facebook page, but nothing happens there. I just even quit even posting stuff there. It's just it's all online.
It's just a distraction, man. All the fun stuff happens on that forum. So
yeah,
Rodney says good evening, and he didn't have any idea you were running a community now.
That's
so yeah, Rodney, get with it, man.
I should tell everybody, but it's just one of those things, you know. I'm not doing it to try to. We charge a very tiny amount to keep the riffraff out, and so that we can provide these prizes and stuff. I mean, our last mix contest, first place paid $1,000 cash.
Yeah, that's insane. Like, I love that.
And the reason we did that, again, because if I'm doing a mix contest, I don't want to win software I already own. I've won mixing contests where I won stuff that I used to win the contest with, right? I did the pure mixing contest and won the same software I used to win the contest with. I gave it away to somebody. But anyways, so I wanted to give away something substantial, $1,000, or you get a free member, or like, you know, it seems so much more substantial to me than some of these prizes I see in other contests.
I mean, $1,000 for someone who's starting a home studio, that's like life-changing. Like, because at this point in time right now, I really think that for like $300, you can make, as long as you're, you know, if you are active and learning and in these communities where you're doing mixes and practicing a lot and getting feedback, I really think you can make a totally professional, releasable album that you're super proud of for like $300 if you invest it in your studio. You know,
I have an opinion on that.
Oh,
you could be a beginning mixer and walk into CLA's studio with $1 million worth of gear, and he can say, do what you want, use it all, record and mix your stuff, go for it. And then he could go into your $300 studio and mix and record and mix a song. Which one do you think it'll be better?
Yeah, CLA is gonna
CLA
knock it
in
out
your
of the park,
$300
right?
studio will still make a professional mix. It'll sound great. You might have to not do some trick things because it doesn't have that, but it'll still make a totally professional mix. And you could go in that $1 million studio and it's still going to be the same. It'll be the same if you're in a $300.
It'd probably be worse.
It'll probably be worse because you don't know how to work anything.
Right. It's overwhelming, right?
For
It's
anybody
like,
watching this, if you want to be a good mixer, there's a secret, and it's knowledge.
yeah.
It's experience, right? It's trial and
Practice.
error. It's like
Yeah.
if you want to have big muscles, you don't work out once a year and expect to have good muscles, right? You got to do it a lot for a while, and it's the same thing with mixing. So that's the
Yeah.
mixing.
Yeah, dude, it's such an important point because a lot of I do a lot of YouTube content. So I have a YouTube channel called Raytown Productions, and I put mixing and mastering tutorials on that all the time.
I
And I
love
see
those.
so many people, and I get all this feedback where they think they have to have like that specific plugin, or it's like, oh man, if only I could afford using the plugins you're using. And it's like, no, like that's not the point. Like you like just pull up your favorite compressor that you have. Like that's all you need. Every DAW has these basic plugins and they all work pretty well. And in fact, I bet a lot of them are probably better coded than a lot of these like
and you might
third-party
actually make a
plugins.
better mix with those
Right.
plugins that add their character and sound. And I see mixers do this. I help them with it. They have 10 different boutique plugins, all with different sounds, all meshed together, and they end up with a mess. And they think that's what they're supposed to do. But if you take those simple plugins that are clean and they take no CPU to run, and you understand the concepts and you have a reason, like when you use a compressor, why are you using the compressor?
Right.
Oh, because everybody uses it, and they're online. What settings do you use for? If you understand why you're using it and what it does, and train your ear to hear what it's doing, you don't need settings. You'll turn the dials until you hear it doing what you want, and that's where you got to get with all these things.
Yeah. And I think something that, and this is something I try to show in my videos all the time too, is when you're watching somebody mix, or a lot of these like tutorials online, they show people just like dialing in the perfect setting right away. They don't show them like fine tuning it, or like how they like get to that point, or how they're hearing what they hear. In order to really learn what a plugin does or the character, you have to go way overboard with the plugin. So when I use a compressor, people say, oh, don't ever do more than 1 to 3 dB of gain reduction, or whatever. It doesn't matter. But I'll go and slam it so the needle is like buried with minus 20 dB, so I can hear like what it's actually doing.
Working, the relief.
And then I can fine tune it so that it feels right. And then you just back it all the way down to the point where then you can just tuck it in, because those little nuances are hard to hear. Even maybe some pro mixing and mastering guys say they can hear it, but it's pretty hard. And if it's, even in their perfect studio, they're barely hearing it. Are you ever going to hear that in the real world? Probably not. So you have to be a little bit aggressive, but then make sure you back it off, and that's the disconnect I feel like with a lot of people, is they're scared to like really go after the plugins to like hear and understand how they're interacting with the music.
Yeah. So I have an opinion about compressors and all that. I'm helping these guys.
You have an opinion about everything.
They're up and coming and learning, just like I've been doing. And you have to decide why you're using a compressor for that track, and does it even need it? And you need to decide that before you just put one on there. And so many times, I think I just said it a couple minutes ago, you just put it on there for no reason. But understand why you're doing it before you do it. Also, when it comes to mixing, I got a tip for you, and probably a lot of you guys do this. When I go to mix a song, I push up the raw tracks and get a quick balance, and I listen to it. And I don't start mixing it until I hear a vision for it. And I listen to it and I imagine what it should sound like. I imagine the soundscape. Is it small and close, or is it wide and deep, or does it have ambient effects, or is it dry, right? Does it have a vocal throw here or there? What is it? And I hear it in my head I can hear what the song is before I start mixing. if I don't hear what the song should be, like like the finished product is, I won't mix it, or I shouldn't mix it, because I don't ever do a very good job on songs where I'm just kind of mixing it because I don't know where it's going. So always listen to your tracks, and in your mind imagine what the finished product is going to be like, and mix towards that. And I think that goes a long way, because I know a lot of these guys, they'll, okay, let's do the drums, let's do the bass, the guitars, vocals, and then they didn't really have that vision. They just see what they can get. And by the way, another thing that we've been talking about Audio Mix Club just recently is that some people, they mix and then separately they master. And I have an opinion about that, because
I'm gonna turn this into a drinking game, Rob. Every time you have an opinion about something, I'm gonna take a drink. All right.
I'll tell you anything I think I know. So I'm no big pro or anything. So anything I say, just take it with a grain of salt, consider it, put it in the back of your mind. But what happens is if you're mixing, and a lot of people think mastering is like the savior of their mix. Like, it doesn't sound good because it's not mastered yet. It's not loud because it hasn't been mastered, right? But mastering really isn't for those things. And if you make it a two-step process, which is fine if you've been doing it and you understand it, but I have a theory for you. If you can hear the finished product as you're mixing, that means at some point in your mix, you turn on your mastering chain. And I don't call that mastering. Mastering's for a real mastering engineer, but you're doing a mastering process. If you can hear the final result as you're mixing, I believe you probably have a better chance to get a better product at the end. Because if you're just mixing and you don't even know how the limiters are going to get hit and how much transients you have in your mix, and you don't realize what's going to happen when it hits those limiters or clippers later, or you don't understand how the drums might be pulled out of the mix more when that happens. So if you can hear the final result as you mix, in my opinion, you have a better chance to get a better mix. And if it's going to be sent to mastering, great. At the end, turn off your mastering chain and send off your mix to be mastered. And better yet, have a mix bus and a mastering bus and print them both at the same time. And you got something you can show your client and something you can send to the mastering guy. And then the guy will master it and you'll send it back and the client ends up liking yours better. That could happen.
Yeah. You just pissed off every single mastering engineer in the entire world. No, but I 100% agree. I 100% agree, because what ends up happening if you don't do things like that is, well, okay, I should qualify this, right? So if you have no idea what you're doing, then it's probably not the best idea. Or just like put a limiter on it. Just something, just so you know how it's gonna, when it's hitting a wall, what it's gonna do. Because that'll give you perspective. Like, oh, my snare sounds like crap. Like when the limiter's on. Oh, well, turn your snare down.
Why is my snare ducking?
Right, yeah. Or, yeah, turn that down. Or maybe you need to dig some frequencies out. So you can kind of, it's almost like it's like having a mix assistant kind of give you hints at what the problems are going to be in the mastering stage. So then you can kind of make tweaks that way. Yeah, and I totally agree. And it's so funny that you mentioned this when you were talking earlier, because I just filmed a video that's going to drop this weekend about how loud should you make your music for streaming and mastering and all that. And one of the main points in the video is that the loudness of a song it's not the mastering that makes a song loud. It's the mix. It's the balance. It's the arrangement. That is what makes a song loud. If you don't have any of those things, you're limiting the loudness potential of the song. If your snare's too loud, I can't make it loud because the snare's going to start crapping out.
You got tons of bass and all these transients poking out everywhere. Yeah, so yeah, that's a good one. I'm always talking about this on Audio Mix Club too. You don't get your loud mix in the mastering. You don't get your mix loud in the mastering. You get your mix loud in the mix, depending on the potential of the recorded tracks.
Absolutely.
Right? Some stuff is never going to be loud, and some stuff's loud just because of how it was recorded. And by the way, we have a mix challenge. We didn't talk about those at Audio Mix Club coming up in just a few days. I'm not going to say what it is, but it has to do with getting your mixes loud without mastering, without your master bus.
Is
And
that a challenge? Is that the mix challenge?
it's going to be a challenge. They're going to have instructions and give ideas of how to make it
I'm
happen.
in, man.
Because
Sign
it's
me
super
up.
important. It's super important for these guys learning to mix, because they think that their mix isn't loud because it's not mastered. Well, I'm going to show and prove that your mix can be plenty loud before you ever put a limiter on the end of it or any of that stuff. And it's a step process from your tracks to your group buses to your mix bus, all the way along. You do the things that make your mix louder. And by the way, when you control your dynamics, right? So every note isn't changing, and all of your tracks have controlled dynamics. When you set the level of these tracks, they stay there. And what that means is you can get a balance without doing all this automation chasing, right? And if you have a balance, it just stays where you put it, instead of every other word being a different volume and different bass notes at different volume and guitar parts louder and quieter, right? And then how do you balance that? Sometimes the drummer hits the snare soft, and sometimes where do you decide what the level of that should be if it's constantly changing, which is what all tracks do before they're processed, if they're raw tracks and haven't been processed during the recording. So if you can control your dynamics, you can get a good balance. If you can get a good balance, you could hear how to EQ it better, right? The EQ becomes easy to hear how to fix if it's not changing. When you hear something quiet or loud, your ears perceive the EQ different. So if you control those, so we're going to cover all that, and I'm going to show these guys how to get your mix loud and it's not mastering. And we'll see how it goes. And if you do it, you can win a prize.
What was that? Sorry, I missed it, man.
I said if you participate and do the challenge, you could win a prize.
That's so awesome, man.
And you don't have to do a good job. You can just do it, because everybody's at different levels. And so
I'm all about loudness contests.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been my big thing. I've just been ranting about loudness and mastering and all this stuff, because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I'm trying to get people to experiment more. Like, put in the work, try things out yourself, see what works. Don't just blindly follow someone,
But also get the education.
Yes.
You need to know what you're doing and why you're doing it, more than you need that plugin, or more than you need that piece of hardware that does nothing. I mean, if you have a terrible room and a cheap microphone, you got a $2,000 mic preamp. I mean, and your mix is still going to suck anyways. So why'd you even spend the money on that?
Yeah,
right? You should have bought room acoustics.
Absolutely. So, in your opinion, where's the money best spent for someone who's starting a home studio?
Education,
room acoustics, right?
Yeah, room acoustics, right? You have to have decent monitors and good room acoustics. If you can't hear what you're doing, it doesn't matter. And Sonar works. I mean, I know it's a good product for a lot of people. I have it. I've tried it. I don't use it because you don't want to know what? I'm not going to say why, but there's some things about it I don't like. I've sent them notes of things to fix, and they've done some things. There's some things about it, but there's other stuff that can, if you get used to your speakers and you don't have a serious problem, like if your 180 is nulled out and you have too much, you'll never know it. And if you have too little, you're never going to know it. So if you have good room acoustics, then you can deal with that. And Sonar Works won't fix that, because if you have a null in your sound, we talked earlier about room acoustics and me going learning all that and doing those things. If like I told you about my subwoofer, where when I got the new subwoofer, cranked it up, sat in my listening, and I had no bass, and my wife comes running and everything's crashing and breaking down. I stand up and walk away, and boom, I come back and there's no bass, right? So if you have that situation, there's no software, there's no Sonar Works, nothing can overcome that. It's impossible, because if you would have turned that bass up even louder, the windows would have broke, the walls would have fallen down, and you still wouldn't get bass.
Right.
So acoustics in your room, and we talked about earlier, where your speakers are and where you are is the most important thing about your room. And if it doesn't look like a regular studio where you're at the front wall with the speakers here, then fine. You should probably experiment and put the speakers in your listening position what's best for your listening experience so you can get the best mix, not what looks right so you can have the cool hangout with the couch and all the stuff, right?
The black leather couch behind you that I'm trying to figure out how
Yep.
to put back there, but my acoustic panels are in the way.
So yeah, so when you start out mixing, you want to have the cool room and look what I got. Like, look at it. It doesn't look good, yeah, but how does it work for you? Like I
Right.
got these stupid splash panels behind me. Like they don't look so good, but they're there for a reason.
Right. No, that's awesome. All right. I want to contradict everything, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. So we talked about how plugins don't matter, but what are some game-changing plugins right now? Because there's a few that have come out in like the last few years that I think are completely unique and are something that actually is moving the needle in mixing. It solves problems that I have when I'm mixing and mastering stuff that nothing else has been able to fix. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that stuff.
All right. Well, there's some of the
Nothing.
plugins, and you know, I'll preach you don't need the fancy plugins, but I got them all. All right, because I like technology and I like fancy plugins. So, and it's as simple like this: Fab Filter Pro Q3 or whatever it is now, right? Having the dynamic EQs and those. I think that's huge for me. I mean, I use that a lot. Before I process like a vocal, if there's problems in it, I'll do this pre-thing before it hits any processing, even my real EQs. Soothe, Soothe 2, I think is
Anthony
huge.
just said, Anthony already called it because these guys already have a drinking game. Every time I talk about Soothe, like they're all taking shots now.
I love it. You don't use it to EQ anything, right? You still got to shape your sound how you need it. It will change what you're hearing, but please EQ your sound properly and use Soothe to fix the problems, not to EQ your sound, right? That's some of them. Another one, Vocal Align Ultra, that just came out. I've always been a fan of Vocal Align, but the Ultra just came out. It's fantastic.
Do you have Revoice?
I do not.
Is the same company. Okay.
Yeah, no, yes.
Synchrosoft or whatever. Yeah.
I've never had the Revoice, but I always had the Vocal Line or whatever they call it.
I went from Vocal Line to Revoice, and that was game changing. And I saw they came out Ultra, and I'm wondering if it's better or not. But I think Revoice is still like way top of the line.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
I just mixed a song with a main vocal and two female vocal and two female backing vocals in this one spot. And then one of the things I could do with it, besides align the timing and fix, I use Melodyne Studio 8. I love it. Right. That's a game changer for me too. But you tune your main vocal, and then you can use the Vocal Line Ultra to do your time align, but it has something where you can change is it called the format or something?
Yes.
Where you sound like a little girl like this, you can kind of darken it or whatever. It's amazing. So you fix your tuning, you fix your timing, and you can change those formats and stuff to make like a darker sound. Even though it's the same woman, she doesn't sound like Darth Vader or anything. Maybe you could, I don't know. But the tools in that product are amazing, and I really like it.
Man, so you got to get Revoice because I want to know if or do a demo or something. Let me know if the Ultra is better. Revoice, you can do time aligning and it will match the pitch correction.
That's what Ultra does.
Okay.
So
cool.
You pitch correct your main vocal, and then you can pull in all your other backing tracks at the same time. Call it a harmony, or if it depends if it's a double or a harmony. Mm-hmm. And you tell it that, and it'll fix all the rest of it and fix your timing and do those formats. Like I said, where it really makes a big difference to change that format of the vocals. So, and you can do it differently per backing track to really make a bigger, more interesting thing to listen to.
Oh man, that's so awesome. Yeah. All right, well, I gotta have that on my wish list now. Thanks, Rob.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, we are at 9:00. So we're gonna wrap this thing up. I want to thank all of the people that have been interacting with us in the chats for hanging out. That's amazing. Thank you. You guys make this so much fun. Rob, thank you so much. If you guys haven't done it, check out audiomixclub.com. That's Rob's website. That's where you can do all these mix challenges, dual mix. You describe it. You do it better than I do it.
Well, we're a private community. It's $10 a month. There's no contract. It's $10 to check it out. If you don't like it, you can quit anytime. All right.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty cool deal. If you go to the website, it pretty much explains most of what's going on. But what's really going on is the community. The community. It's the people that are there. They're so helpful, so kind, and getting that immediate feedback today of your mix or a song you're working on. Musicians to collaborate with, right? Show off the new thing you've done. Even the other mixing contests out there, we have specific places for you to post your contest mixes for other contests, and we all help each other out. We want an Audio Mix Club member to win that contest. So
yeah, that'd be awesome, man. But check it out. Seriously, it's amazing. I think it's the best thing you can possibly do if you're trying to take your music more seriously and get feedback. Rob's amazing. Most helpful guy I think I've ever met. Genuine dude. Thank you so much, Rob. Really, really appreciate you taking the time out of your day, coming on here and having a good conversation with me.
Thanks, Bobby. You're a good guy. All right. Let's do it again.
Sounds good. I'd love to have you back on the show, man. All right, everybody. I want to wish you all a wonderful evening, and I'll see you next week at 8 o'clock Eastern right here. And it's going to be another amazing interview. So have a good night. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it, man.
Take care.